Hey, Warrior Saints, what up Wednesday? Glad to have you beautiful people in with us as we continue our weekly, daily live stream. You know, we've been talking this week about making the most of the time. How do we really produce something of value and not just be mediocre and like everybody else? And Greg was great on Monday starting us off with Ben Franklin about how time is fleeting. Like you can delay, but time ain't gonna stop. And once it's gone, you ain't gonna get it back, right? And yesterday we talked about a little bit about being making the most of that time. How do we offer our best to the world? And that means we first have to decide that we're going to make a positive contribution to the world, to leave it a little better than we found it. First thing to do that we're going to talk about today is putting off something so you can put on something. What I mean by that is that we've got to put off, or maybe say put away, things that are not going to help us contribute positively, right? Like, I don't know, let's read St. Paul in Ephesians. He says the following. Listen to these words from Ephesians chapter 5. Let there be no filthiness, nor silly talk, nor levity, which are not fitting, right? Like, he's saying these are things that are kind of non-essential to you producing your best outcome. And if you think about it, if you're lost in silliness or filthy talk or levity or things that are they're easy and sometimes comfortable, but you've taken time, this precious time, and given it to this, meaning you don't have time to give to that, right? Does that make sense? All right, so let me make it very simple and clear for you in my own life as an example. It's very easy for me to go home at the end of the day and turn on a Netflix or Apple TV binge. I don't know if you guys have seen Ted Lasso, but I love that show. And I've already watched it, the whole thing twice. And I just sit there and binge it because it's fabulous. And I said to myself, yeah, but when I'm doing that, even though it's levity and it's light, it's a beautiful show, I'm not writing. I'm not prepping to teach. I'm not really offering anything. And while I will never tell you not to watch a show and relax at the end of a long, hard day, are you using your time to make the most of what you have to offer to the world? Or as St. Paul says in Ephesians 5, are you making the most of the time? So I want you to recognize you cannot do both, right? You cannot do both. This is one of the great fallacies of the world, is that we can do both. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And so to go back to our image, if I want to produce a teaching of value and to give the world, to give God everything that I can I sit and watch 5 and 6 hours of a TV program? It kind of doesn't work together. Do you understand it? You have to put off so that I can put on the things which are light. And St. Paul talks about that in Ephesians. You know, you used to be darkness. Now he's calling us to walk as children of the light. You see it? You used to be lost in darkness. TV shows, Netflix, Apple TV. Now that you've given yourself to Christ, go get some, Warrior Saints. Let's do it. Now, I know that the world is pulling at us, and it's a challenge to do that. It's so easy for me to stand here in a 5-minute clip and say to you, do this and don't do that. I get it, but I'm struggling with you, and I recognize that difficulty. Now, how do we overcome that difficulty? Where do we find some guidance or teachings? Ultimately, not from the world, but from God. Where do we find this help to get us on that path, to help us get on the way of making our most positive and powerful impact on the world? We do that by visiting warriorsaints.org. When you go to warriorsaints.org, you are going to find a couple of things, but the first one that I really want to draw attention to today is something called the Way of the Warrior Saint. What that is, it's a subscription service. It's a library, basically, a subscription to our library that's filled with video teachings to help us become the best men and women that we can be so that we can make that positive contribution to the world. Does that make sense? It's just teachings that come from God, come from Scripture, but that are very practical and very easy to implement into our lives immediately. Or I should say simple to implement into our lives immediately. Practical tools to say, I'm going to start right now. I really encourage you, join us, The Way of the Warrior Saint. It's fabulous. It's fun. We enjoy it. People thank you, rave about it. I'm humbled by that. And, by God's grace, we'll keep grinding, keep giving to you. We love you. We'll be back tomorrow. Till then, keep walking on the way of the Warrior Saint.